With Club 3D and cards like 270X, 280X Queen, and 290 Royal Ace, you're gonna have all the cards in your hand to win at any game. Click on the link in the description below for more details. Hello everyone, I'm Dimitri with Canucks, and Phanteks has been around for just over a year in the enclosure market, and ever since the release of the Enthoo Primo, people have been requesting to see something smaller with focus on space efficiency without compromise. Then we got a couple of cases, the Pro and Deluxe, that for their class are outstanding in pretty much every aspect, so naturally our expectations were really high for Phanteks' next chassis. And so now the Enthoo EVOLV has generated a lot of hype ever since its initial tease, and now we can finally take a look at the enclosure that aims to bring us the features that we are so excited to see from Phanteks, while minimizing on the internal frame to fit a micro ATX form factor. Priced at $139 for the white version and $10 less for the black, there's definite growing demand for their cases, and for many of us who have been waiting for a mid-tower from the company, we'll probably look past this high price point. But let me make it clear that all exterior panels are made of thick aluminum with steel frames, so the price point is totally where you can expect it to be for aluminum integration. Overall, I'm very impressed with the build quality of the gorgeous exterior, plus the slightly glossy finish gives off an appropriate amount of elegance, although some of you have mentioned that the paint job actually makes it look like plastic, and I would agree to an extent. However, your perception will change as soon as you get a feel for how solid the chassis is. The side window showcases only the important parts, of course with Phanteks logo peeking through, that's their staple. The square form is very basic, but the added extensions at the front and the top does manage to bring this from a standard square box into a more modern design. Now, speaking of square, here it is next to the latest S340 case from NZXT that is an ATX tower. So in comparison, the Enthoo EVOLV is a bit on the larger side for a micro ATX enclosure when compared to the most recent competition. Now, my first instinct regarding the shape was to lift the case by the extended parts of the top panel, but it is easily removable and should not be used to carry the EVOLV. Here's the beautiful toolless approach for accessibility, as all exterior panels remove with ease. The side panels especially, they swivel to open and sit securely on these hinges, and they're extremely simple to remove during assembly. Plus there's padding spread all over the frame to prevent any metal on metal contact. Now, the I/O ports are located on the side with dual USB 3 ports, audio jacks and PR buttons above. Side placement is not always ideal, and it will limit user orientation of the case. Now, while they are attached to the frame to reduce hassle for wiring when disattaching the side panel, why couldn't these ports be moved to the top panel where it makes more sense? So users will have to choose either to look at the window or the side ports, and that is a bit counterintuitive. Behind the front panel we have this massive dust filter with a removable top portion for different fan configurations, so that's very considerate, and behind it a 200mm fan is included with dual 120s and 140mm fan mounts as well. The top panel has just small exhaust ports on each side, and I feel air exhaust that may just get stuck inside the chassis, as Phanteks has gone ahead with a pretty much fully solid panel design both up top and the front that I feel would reduce total exhaust potential and the effectiveness of the intake. Luckily, the spacing between the front panel and that massive fan in the front seems to be adequate to offer enough static pressure. Top configuration include dual 120 and 140mm fans, so their perspective radiator sizes are welcome for water cooling on these flexible mounting strips. Phanteks did manage to squeeze in an optical bay in the most unconventional spot at the top rear of the case to keep the front panel uniformly solid. So from an aesthetic standpoint it makes sense, but accessing your optical drive will be a complete hassle. There is a bracket for installation that doesn't block any rubber grommets, so don't expect any wiring interruptions, but it will limit top fan placement, so you'll only be able to utilize front half portion of top mount. It's still though an innovative spot, and I'm liking Phanteks thinking outside of the box. Now, this is a micro ATX chassis, so around the back we have 4 PCI brackets, a 140mm exhaust fan, and a bottom mounted power supply dust filter. And getting inside the case, we first find a bracket to be used to house your mechanical and solid state drives, plus it can be used for reservoir mounting if you plan on water cooling. The SSDs are installed this way, so the cables are either facing up or down, which would make wiring really difficult if you want to maintain a clutter-free interior. It would have been nice for the side bracket to swivel to open just like the side panels to allow more convenient access and also easier cable work. The internal layout is actually spacious that will accommodate dual graphics configurations. We have 32 centimeters or 12.5 inches for the GPU, plus the floor is ventilated so the lower GPU doesn't fully get choked. The bottom chamber houses your power supply with units up to 180mm supported, and there's also a hard drive cage with these excellent caddies that you do not need to flex as they utilize these wing-like brackets for mounting, and SSD holes are right in the center. The drive cage is removable to allow longer power supply units, but also for water cooling builds, as we get a pump bracket that is rubberized on both sides to prevent any noise from operation, and by removing the drive cage ceiling, you can use that spot to either install your pump or reservoir, or install it front to 40mm radiator, so you do have some options regarding water cooling. And as expected, we see excellent cable management support at the rear with Phanteks Velcro straps, although not enough actual cable type points that are always handy to secure any wandering cables. There is a fan hub with PWM support, so you can control all your fans from your motherboard, nice, and a single SSD bracket with dual placement, but I would love to see Phanteks include a second bracket just in case. And before assembly, we are greeted with this very convenient toolbox with all the needed screws and little accessories. And with this beautiful system installed, there are a few things we'd like to point out. First, plenty of clearance up top for water cooling. There's a reason for that extra height. The power supply cutout is revealing, so that's appreciated to show off your hardware. And despite the compact interior, we have appropriate cutouts below the motherboard for routing all the little things, and that is crucial to keep the system cables under control. Coming back to that confusing side bracket, while it has functionality, the execution to include it isn't ideal. Just imagine having to deal with all the cables at this stage with connecting your drive, for example. And closing the panel shows off only the goodies, although now I'm thinking that non-tinted panel would work in favor for slightly better visual. The cable mess at the back is somewhat controlled with the pre-built Velcro straps, but I really wish there were more standard cable type points to really clean all this up. Closing the last panel, however, is without a hassle, and we are ready for one last show off. The front LED strip is a cool concept, especially with interchangeable 4 colors that are included. You know, just take out the LED, reconnect it, and you have yourself a color-coded system. Although only 2 of the 4 colors looked fine, as both red and green were really dim, almost invisible, while blue and white looked properly bright. And so you know what's coming? It's conclusion time. So the Enthoo EVOLV is our first of its kind from Phanteks surrounding this form factor, and they did a magnificent job with build quality, functional internal layout ready for water cooling and dual GPU systems. I love the little things like the toolless approach towards exterior panels, foam padding to reduce vibrations, replaceable LED lighting whenever it works, toolbox, fan hub, unique spot for an optical bay, and a really easy assembly process without any hiccups. On the other hand, I think though we might have gotten our expectations a little bit too high, as the I/O mount is on a terrible location on the side. It really should have been up top. The side bracket, while could serve its function, is not well positioned for easy access. Also, the lack of standard cable tie points is disappointing, and the limited top exhaust may impact cooling. Also, variable brightness LEDs were unexpected. But all in all, we think this introduction from Phanteks is still extremely competitive, even at this price point, within the micro ATX market, especially since this is the best build tower we've worked with recently. But it still doesn't hit that damn good spot because of outlined issues above. But would you agree with us on our outlook on the EVOLV, or are you ready to pick one up for your next build despite our critique? Let us know in the comments below. So as always, thanks for watching, make sure you subscribe to be notified when our S340 review goes public, and we'll see you in the next one.